Watcher. I don't know how this video is gonna, what sort of form it's gonna take. I think that's probably the right term. Um, I think I might have called it. What I called it? I might have called it charity shop purchase. I think. Um, uh, yeah, I felt this sort of warranted its own video because it's so freakishly on the nose that it sort of stood out for me anyway. If if you follow me, I hate that. I still can't get used to that. I don't like Twitter at the best of times. I only keep it around so I don't feel like a hermit. But but one of the worst things I hate about it is the fact that when you call people followers. Ooh. Anyway, if you follow me on Twitter, you probably know what I'm talking about or going to talk about because I had this charity shop purchase. It was so like on the nose. It was freakish. When I say on the nose, I mean, as far as my list goes, everybody's got lists. Or well, some of us have. Some of us have actually got real lists. Others have got lists up here. Others just don't have lists. So yeah, no. It's as far as sort of most wanted games goes as a game collector, I suppose. Um, this is right up there. Sorry, Jeremy Carwell. I thought that would be funny. I thought this is sort of right up there. Looking at my most sort of desired games, and when I talk about the sort of most desired games, this actually pretty much refers to games I used to have as a kid and would really have liked back. And I was out one day last week, and I sort of walked past a charity shop, and it was just this sort of a little this game in the front window. It was just bizarrely just right on the nose. There's a slight caveat. Is that the right word? Caveat down. You couldn't get quite too carried away. Shall I show you? Screw it. I think you might really understand. Two Mega Drive games, for instance. This is what it is. Two Mega Drive games. And the two favourite Mega Drive games. One of these games in particular is one of my favourite games of all time, and it's a game that I used to have. I lent to a friend. He took it to his friend's house, left it there, and then I kept asking for him back. But he's one of those friends who goes, "Yeah, I'll get it back," and then totally forgets because he's quite sort of self-centered. As one of those friends. Not that I'm bitter, no. But yeah, and he ended up leaving it at his friend's house. And to make it worse, that friend then moved. Say my copy of this particular game, my original copy of this particular game, somewhere floating in the ether. It's somewhere. Makes it. And who knows? This might even be my original one. That'd be freakish, wouldn't it? It's got no identifying features, but. Sorry. And the other one is a game that I also had. I think I got a few years later. It's quite a relatively late game in this. They're both in the same. Both in the same. Have I mentioned what system it is? I don't know, but they're both in the same system. I think I might have done actually. So, but I'll just pretend that I haven't. Okay. Both in the same system, and both two of my favourite games. One was a sort of slightly later game from this particular system, but I saw the two exact games in a charity shop window. One on par with the other. I had to crouch down because it was sort of slightly overhanging. There's a pile like that, one directly on top of the other one, so I couldn't see what the one underneath was. So I had to sort of crouch down because its corner was slightly overhanging. I had to see if I could see the screenshots underneath to see what it was. And it was my favourite game of all time, or one of them. Downside is, I'll get them out. You'll see exactly what the downside is. So it's sort of the downside, would be to some people, but what it did sharpen my judgment. And a lot of people would see that as sort of not personally, but I don't, I don't see it as a downside, but other people would, and they would sort of run a mile. But for me, it just sharpened my judgment, and I had to sort of, it helped me decide how much I wanted them, and because these were two of my most favourite games of all time, it, it seemed like weirdly, as I said, on the button, on the nose. There we go. This now you'll see. Look, Shining Force Mega Drive. That's the downside. 45 quid. And I in a charity shop. Now, obviously, it's been looked up on eBay, and I'm not one of these people who will criticise charity shops for doing that, because when you sell something, you want to get as much as you can for it. If you sell stuff on eBay, you don't go, no, I'm going to sell it for £1 so I can sell it really quickly. You want to sell it at its value, don't you? But yeah, and the other one, actually better value. Better. This is cheaper. This is actually sort of bottom end. I had to make a judgment call, and I don't really know Mega Drive game prices, but I made a judgment call. I know a few, and sort of these two in particular, I had a feeling. I pretty much knew they were good, particularly this one. This one is one of my favourite games of all time. 45 quid. Exactly. That's what it does. It sharpens your judgment. I mean, a lot of people will be making rant videos now, but I don't want to be one of those people, because, well, I'll get onto that. Like I said, I haven't actually decided what form this video is going to take. My opinion could change. So there you go. I knew it was there and thereabouts. So, it did take me. I had to go away and think about it. It was in Stevenage. I don't often go to Stevenage. This was one of the problems, because I had to decide before I left, and I gave it about 10 minutes deliberation, and in the end decided that they're two of my most wanted games, sought after games. I knew that the prices were good, even though they're not like the traditional charity shop prices. And I think that's one of the problems people have is charity shops are learning. I mean, eBay's it's essentially just an unofficial price index. It's a recommended retail price, isn't it? And why would you not use it as a resource to judge the value of random objects? I mean, everybody does. Why should charity shops not be allowed to? And they have done, obviously, in this sense. And I mean, they go for between 45 to 60 quid. So this has been set well set. It's a good price. And this one's cheaper. I mean, they seem to be sort of £60 and upwards. So this one's even better. But and on top of that, they're both in really nice nick, really lovely nick. So the only downside is this one's got a slightly wafty label. It's peeling at the top. The label's just peeling up, which needs to be glued down. And this one's just in... Look at that. Really, really nice nick. So, I had to make a judgment call before I left. I mean, if you saw those two games for those two prices on eBay, they would literally last... I reckon, particularly Fantasy Star, would last 5 minutes. This one, on a buy it now, I wouldn't be surprised if it lasted an hour, But they wouldn't hang around. If I listed them together for the cumulative price, they would be snapped up, instantly. And now... and if you saw the same games for the same prices in a game shop, I think the same principle is true. I think they wouldn't hang around long. They're well priced, but for some reason it's slightly shocking in a charity shop. And to be honest, people in this situation will often talk about, they get it for free. They're getting greedy. now sort of really think about what you're saying. I mean, they get it for free. I mean, the price somebody gets something for is irrelevant, frankly. I'm getting angry. I thought this could get a bit, but I just think the price somebody gets something for, of what somebody has to pay to get something, it's irrelevant. It's really irrelevant. And I mean, greed doesn't come into it. They're supposed to get as much as they can, and these are charity shops, and there are other bodies in the world that probably worth your anger more so than charity shops, just because they take we've had it easy. Let's face it, we've had it easy for years. We've had it easy when charity shops charity shops are sort of selling stuff for £1, and then I mean, can you really blame them for using eBay as a price index? No, I can't, to be honest. And so, yeah, I'm losing my train of thought. The only downside is, and it's not a downside. It's problematic for them, and that's in that if you can apply the same thing to car boot sellers, because people will say, oh, they quoted me eBay, and if someone in the future says, oh, it's worth so and so on eBay, and you would perfectly in your right to say, yeah, well, why don't you go and sell on eBay? But also you should say to them, but you're forgetting the fact that people come to car boot sales, people shop in charity shops as well, and other places of the like. The purchases they make are impulse buys. And impulse buys are not things that you pay a lot of money for, right? You take a sort of make a judgment call, and in that sense, it's sort of problematic for charity shops if they're going to go down that route, if they want to get as much money as they can. And in this sense, I was the perfect buyer for these two games for them. But how long would they have to wait for me to come along in order to get those two prices? And when I actually went to pay for them, the woman behind the counters was sort of went, blimey, £45 each. And I was thinking, go on, knock a bit off, go on. I'm not one of those people who's going to haggle in a charity shop, because I think that's just shitty behaviour, personally. I mean, this is a hospice charity. 45 quid. I mean, I'm guessing 45 quid would get you 3 or 4 hours worth of the time for a palliative care nurse in a hospice. I mean, I'm not going to haggle them down to £1, because what a pound would get you about 5 minutes. That's the thing we have to keep in mind if we're going to start demonising charity shops. I mean, sort of demonise people like Philip Green. Go after him. Or that's one of the things I wanted to make a point about, is that because charity shops they're meant to be cleaner than clean, sort of whiter than white, aren't they? And if they stray too far towards, looking, as people say, greedy, then those perceived infractions, the right term, people see them as so much worse than if it's some other body where you accept these things that they do, like banks, for instance. Banks are allowed to get away with murder. All of these companies like Amazon and Starbucks that don't pay their tax. We will sort of shrug it off in the end, but people go crazy if charity shops seem to be looking a bit greedy, or paying their chief executives £1 too much. I mean, let's face it, if charity shops were run totally by volunteers, it would be carnage, wouldn't it? I don't really know what my point is. It seems to. All I want is. I mean, this forced me. This is a unique situation. Let's put it this way. It's not going to happen again. I'm not going to walk past a charity shop and see exactly. How often does that happen? Rare. In the past, I've got there's a few DVDs I've bought that should have been on the nose. I bought In the Hunt from a charity shop. a few other PS1 games. That's about it. It doesn't happen often, so this is a weird situation, and I can't blame them for asking that much. And it's just shows that the times are changing, and we shouldn't get angry about it. That's what I'm saying. We shouldn't get angry. We shouldn't demonise them. We should take our passions and our anger and put it towards people who more deserve it. I mean, yeah, but don't get me wrong. I would have loved it if it was like £2. You know, I would have done the video straight away rather than wait a bit. But yeah, kind of everything. And also, I mean, to be honest, I couldn't afford that. I had to forgo going to the games market in the last one in Russell Square. I know a load of lads went down, and I couldn't go. I'd had plans for that week. I was going to a gig and I was going out of town, so I had to sort of put aside a load of money for that. And I'm not at the moment, especially this close to Christmas, in a situation where I can just randomly sort of shell out that sort of money on myself. So what I had to do was, I mean, I can't afford it in real terms. I'm not destitute, but I had to thought, right, how can I afford this? And paid for it. I don't have credit cards, by the way. It's a mug's game. Paid for it, and what I've done, I've given it to the old girl, and she's quite happy because it means she doesn't have to think about what to buy for Christmas. I've given it to the old girl, and she's going to give them back to me for Christmas. So there you go. So everybody's happy. But yeah, and part of the thought process was that if I'd paid too much, I'd just sort of sell them on and get pretty much all the money back. You know, that was the thought process. And in the end, no, like they win. The charity shop makes some good money, and I don't lose. It's just by charging this much, it narrows their market, doesn't it? But it was in the window. It was in the window, and I can imagine there's a lot of people going past. There's a Tesco's just past that charity shop. I imagine there's a lot of people going past that window. But by going to me, maybe I'm the exact person they're looking to appeal to. I imagine there would be people who recognise these as Mega Drive games and like old video games who wouldn't necessarily know the games themselves or their value, who were bought at the price. But I suppose as far as they're concerned, it was lucky I saw them, and it would have been more on the nose if I had lots of disposable cash, but I didn't at the moment. But I was almost sort of spot on. But either that, it's going to go to if it's not going to go to a sort of somebody who's going to appreciate them like me, it's going to go to somebody who's going to sell them on, and that's going to only contribute to the prices going up, and which they will do. They're going to continue to. But I don't know what my point has been in this whole video. I think don't, please, if anyone feels like they've been, I've been taking digs, don't see it like that, please. Well, I haven't been. I mean, I'm one of them. I like to be liked. I don't want to piss people off. Yeah. I go, oh, sorry. Don't. Yeah. Anyway, I'll let you go. See you later. I'm going to finish watching Jeremy Kyle. I don't watch Jeremy Kyle. I just thought I'd put it funny to put on the background. Personally, I think he's a wank.